Hello friends, this is Rajeev Katyal, author of the book Battles for Dilli, Dilli Kareeb Ast. Today, I will talk about the historical context of this book Battles for Delhi and its parallel to the recent India-Pakistan limited war which happened over 4 days, characterized by the highly successful Operation Sindoor, which the Indian military forces launched against Pakistan. If you look at the history of Delhi, it is not surprising that the threat to India has always come from the northwest. It is nothing new that the forces from northwest have tried to harm and invade India. If you go back as far as the 6th century BC, Darius, the Persian emperor, invaded parts of northwest India. He managed to conquer some of them and then went back. It was Alexander who came close of the 4th century BC and started trying to conquer parts of India. However, unlike in other parts of the world, he ran into very stiff resistance from the moment he entered what is today called Afghanistan, but large parts of which were then considered to be a part of India. And finally, he met his match in the Battle of Jhelum against the Indian King Porus, where in spite of having a very powerful, all-conquering army with his famous Greek talents, they could not stand the aggressive charges of the 200 elephants of Porus, and they could only overcome Porus with a great deal of damage to themselves. After which, Alexander's army refused to go any further into India because they feared much larger armies facing them, and they felt that these armies would come with even larger number of elephants and crush them. After that, it was Seleucus who again came from northwest. He was the successor to the Asiatic part of Alexander's empire, and he tried to invade India, but was defeated somewhere near the river Indus by what was then a united Indian empire, the Mauryan Empire, under the Mauryan Emperor Chandragupta Maurya. And he had to cede large parts of his territories towards the eastern part of his empire, in what is today Balochistan and Afghanistan, to Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan Empire was very strong, but after some time when it became weaker, a large number of Indo-Greek kingdoms which had been set up as a consequence of the earlier Greek invasions in the northwestern part of India tried to reconquer parts of India and came deep into India. But finally, they were also defeated and pushed back. And they also fell victim to the incoming further wave of conquerors from who were called the Shakas. This happened towards around 200 BC or so. And then after that, the Shakas themselves were overcome by another wave of conquerors from outside northwest India called the Kushans. The Kushans lasted towards the close of the 1st century BC, but they were again overcome by another wave of Shakas. So the point is that always all these people who have been to the northwest of India have always looked upon India and as a land which can be conquered and subjugated. And they always come from mostly the northwest, I would say. But time and again, they have met resistance from India and been pushed back, like the Mauryans pushed back the Greeks. And then finally, the Shakas themselves were eliminated by the Gupta Empire, another great Indian empire which rose and defeated them. And it was the famous king Chandragupta II who exterminated the Shaka menace from North India around the 4th century AD. So again, it's a story of how the Indian forces rose and pushed back. But the threat continued. The Guptas ruled for a long period. The Gupta Empire lasted for over 200 years. But finally, it was the Huns who came in waves and overcame a Gupta Empire in its last stages when the emperors were weak. Again, a combination of Indian forces under the Gupta emperor of that time, Narasimhagupta, and Yashodharman of Malwa defeated them. And there's a famous battle of Sondani, which happened around 520 AD, in which the Huns were pushed back. So you can see the successive waves coming. First the Persians, then the Greeks, then the Shakas, then the Kushans, then the Shakas again, and then the Huns. But how time and again India with its resilience came out and pushed back these forces. The threat has always been there. It will always remain, and always India will have to be on its guard. Not only now from northwest, near the northern borders of China, hostile forces towards the east of India, or from the sea. The country can only become great and if it guards itself continuously against such invasions.